Can't tell from looking at your own picture, but yeah, your background's blurred.
What's up there?
Oh, okay.
We're live. Welcome to KBN Live. We're sitting here having microphone and blurred background talk.
Hey,
before we get going,
whatever,
that's all right. We are on time tonight, and we're excited to come to you. Before we get going, I'm going to apologize for the audio last week. I uploaded the podcast and listened to it, and my audio was like some kind of echo. My microphone was off, so I was talking in the webcam mic.
Yeah.
So if you're a podcast listener, thanks for listening to it anyway, but it was it should be fixed now. But I'm Jeff Malott, my partner up here, Ryan Lambert. Gonna have fun tonight. We're proud to welcome in for the first time Russell Johnson from the mighty Anglers of the Northeast up there. Thanks for joining us.
What's
tonight,
going
Russell.
on? What's going on, guys? How you doing tonight?
Oh, man.
Good, man.
All right, we got a bunch of folks jumping on. Wherever you're coming in from, just leave us a comment so we know you're watching. Russell, we wanted to have you on right after that tournament last week, but two big tournaments went down at the same time, and we had Richard on last Monday and wanted to give it a week and have you on to talk about your big win up on the, I can't ever pronounce that right. It's the Susquehanna,
yeah, Susquehanna River.
The Susky? People say Susky?
Susky for short.
All right, but I mean, you guys are loaded with talent up that way. I know a buddy of mine, Jake Harshman, lives up there and talks about the quality of that fishery. And, for you to come out on top with that many anglers, I think they had 79, 80 anglers in that event, big event for what's going on right now. It was impressive, so we wanted to have you on to talk about it.
Yeah, it was a big event, and the odd thing about it is there's no local club that supports it. So the biggest club in Pennsylvania doesn't support KBF, doesn't support any outgoing or outer clubs besides their own. So I kind of took on a tournament director position and made some boundaries and said the water's good enough to bring the anglers. The guys inside the club, they supported it. And, we had well over 70 anglers. And when you look at that list, there was a whole stack of them that compete nationally that can take an event at any given time. So it's a huge river, man. Like you say, it's a mile wide in some areas. But when you in that mile wide, you won't get your kneecaps wet walking across it. So
the last couple of years, that tournament was kind of stifled by floods, right? Wasn't it like springtime? Was it springtime or was it early summer? It was on my list to go, but it rained for the last 2 years. I mean, flood water.
Yeah, it's spring water. We had records amounts of rainfall. This year we're below, I think it's about 3 inches below the water index right now. So it was low and gin clear. But the last event we had, just for say, the river was at 30,000 cubic feet, a second pass the gauge. When we had the last event, it was at 8.6 at 170,000 cubic feet running. It's a completely different beast.
Yeah, I bet.
But it's funny because it rises, but it doesn't come out of its banks. It's just there's so much volume in it. It either gets faster or just slows down, and it just comes up almost vertical. It doesn't let out of its banks too far.
And that river runs all the way to the coast, is that right?
Yeah, so it's the largest freshwater tributary to the Chesapeake Bay. It's the number one source of water for the Chesapeake Bay. It drains a lot of New York, half of Pennsylvania, and it runs from the north section of Pennsylvania all the way down through into Maryland, and she's massive. Massive.
Well,
full of huge smallmouth.
And if you're a catfish fisherman, they have giant flatheads in there.
You hear that?
Oh, shit.
Numerous of them.
I know, I was going to say, Jim's truck just started.
Yeah. At 45, 50 pounders, they broke the state record 2 or 3 times in the last year. And they're massive, and there's hundreds of them.
Really?
So, yeah.
Well, I know every time there's a tournament up that way, whether it's up on one of the Great Lakes or especially on that river, it's all about the smallmouth, it seems like. What makes that fishery put out such, before we get into actually how you caught them, why does it produce such big fish up in that region?
Well, for me, I think it's the amount of crawfish we have. Like, if anybody that's been out there, you take a flashlight out at night, and it looks like there's a crawfish boil going on in the water. There's crawfish everywhere. but it's also the number of like carp, sheephead, and suckers we have that actually spawn. So there's a ton of tiny bait fish that these bass can just hone in on, and then when they don't want to be too aggressive, they can drop back off the crawfish. And it's crawfish, I guess, are high in protein and have a good fat content for their energy. But the susky,
and it's rocky, right?
Yeah, it's rocky. There are grassy areas. There's areas big enough on the lake that or on the river that are like a lake where you'll see guys jet skiing and running a ski boat, stuff like that. But a majority of it, a prop boat can't be run on that river. 200 horse inboard jets are like one of the more common things. But even with those, there's spots that you can't get in a jet boat that we get in the kayaks. So generally, it's 58 inches and 3 fish to cash a check at one of our events when the river's on.
Yeah, but torpedoes do great there, I hear.
Torpedoes do great.
That's what the rumor is.
The thing is that you got to have a rock guard because otherwise, if you don't have your rock guard, you're going to destroy it. You're going to destroy a torpedo.
Yeah.
I think Ken Wood was mad the amount of scratches he put on his kayak after 2 days of fishing on a Susquehanna. It's rocky and it's like shell rock, so it's kind of sharp in spots.
What kind of, does he have a fiberglass kayak? What's he got?
No, Ken's. I think he
Carbon fiber?
not carbon fiber. I don't think I would last for not one day up here before getting sent back for repairs. But then again, I haven't seen it on the water. I don't know. Not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
But excited about the things that are on it.
We'll poke around in that in a minute. We're going to get your tournament run down. Josh Evans fell out of his chair, so we're doing good so far.
So,
oh, man.
You're talking about crawfish being the forage up there. Let's talk about how you caught them. Did you use something that focused on? I didn't want to give up all your juice, probably, but what was your deal? How did you catch that winning stringer?
Honestly, I was looking for an aggressive to find out where they were. So I started throwing a 5-inch bull shad. And I was throwing it, just looking for a follower, looking for something to see, having the polarized glasses on and paying attention to that bait, looking for a shadow, looking for anything. And then all of a sudden I got to an area of super shallow water. It was fast. It wasn't something you can sit in your kayak in. It's a spot most people wouldn't even fish if they were in a kayak. And I was throwing a bull shad in, and they were coming out of deeper water and attacking this bull shad, and they were swallowing it.
So you were using it as a search bait, ended up catching one.
Yep, using it as a search bait, end up catching one. But this is
I don't want to give away too much, but there's a couple guys around Knoxville, Tennessee, that like a similar approach for big smallmouth. They throw a giant bull shad. You'll probably see them scratching and clawing, trying to qualify for the Tournament of Champions here in the next couple months.
It's a great. I mean, people don't think smallmouth. I think people naturally say smallmouth, small baits. That is not. No. They're super aggressive. And the Susky smallmouth is like a Great Lakes smallmouth in a river. They're short. They're fat. They got shoulders and they're strong as shit.
Yeah, dude, I catch them on 6-8 inch swim baits on 3/4 ounce heads. Regularly. Like that's a go-to bait, especially in the spring when they're pushed up and they're feeding hard, getting ready to spawn. They want to eat anything they can get. Like that. That's how you catch the big ones.
So, like on a river, I think the bull shad. What started me with it was they get territorial. Like when they're in faster water and they're in their little, I call it a micro eddy, just a different change in current. It might be a basketball-sized boulder that's changing a current around it. I find that they sit behind that stuff, like little details. But you bring that through there, I think they get mad at it and aggressively strike at it, and or they'll eat it. A lot of time they'll nose it and get hooked, but they will eat a 6-inch bait with no problem.
Mark Springer said you just gave up the old Susky secret.
It's not a secret, man. We've been doing that for 7-8 years.
It's not a secret anymore, Mark. I think Mark moved. Where'd he move? Was it Kansas or somewhere,
Missouri.
Jeff?
Just north of
Missouri,
He's over
somewhere.
Here by me, dude. He's about 3 hours.
Shit, all that shit's the same out there. I don't know the difference, man. You get You get further west in the Mississippi, you don't need to call me anymore. I'm done.
Ryan's no fan of the flyover states.
No, I'm good, player. Unless we're duck hunting. Now
Okay.
I'll go to Arkansas to duck hunt, or Missouri, or Oklahoma.
We can go out to Idaho or North Dakota to go pheasant hunting.
I'm going to Idaho in September to elk hunt.
Oh, okay. You can have all that. I'm too fat to walk all that distance.
Oh, it's flat land, Playboy. I did not.
Okay.
I did not build this body to walk it all over a mountain.
No, exactly. I'm not built for that. I'm fat and happy. I'm not trying to lose too much.
Exactly. It cost me a lot to feed this.
Hey, so before we came on, I took a peek at your Tourney X stats, Russell, and they're, as I imagine, they're very impressive. Yeah, stuck. But first, answer me why your profile picture on there is Nemo.
So actually, I think it's the shirt I got on. Mountain State Kayak Anglers. I was having some troubles one day. Actually messed up a phone for login. I couldn't get service, but I could text pictures. So I texted pictures to two guys, and I used their phone to log on to Tourney X and submit my pictures. Never logged out of Tourney X. They changed my profile picture, and they changed it. They changed it to Nemo, and it was literally like a week and a half later that I realized that my profile picture on Tourney X had changed. So one of the guys that changed it, he has a kayak. It's orange and yellow, and they named it Nemo. And his wife has another gray kayak, and they named it Bruce. And so he changed it to Nemo. And I've never changed it because so many people ask why, or hey, I saw you on Tourney X, but I didn't know what you look like. It's Nemo.
It's Nemo. All right. I can respect that. That's good friend right there. So
Clifton Allen says he's guessing you are no novice. That's correct, Clifton. Russell's caught a couple. He's been around a minute and caught some fish. Clifton, in case you didn't see, Clifton posted a video on Kayak Bass Nation earlier asking how you would describe yourself as an angler, a tournament angler, or a novice. And I think it was kind of a loaded question to spark some debate, as Clifton usually does. But I wouldn't say he's a novice.
I guess, and here's the funny part with that. There's times I'm like utterly dead serious about tournament angling, and there's other times like I just want to hang out on the water with some friends and fish.
Yeah.
But it's during a tournament. So it's like there's times I want to prove myself or go all out, and there's other times where I can go somewhere and just fish a tournament all day and not give two cares in the world about how I finish.
Some of them are location dependent for me. Like if, like Gunnersville, for instance, like I don't know why. If I hear of a Gunnersville tournament, I just wake up and I'm like, all right, this, like no matter what I do the night before, like I need to get out and catch some fish for this one. But like Nickajack, I hate Nickajack, and it was my home lake. But for that FLW, everybody's like, oh, Lambert lives on Nickajack. I hate the lake, and I felt so much pressure to catch fish. Then I'm like, this is a lake I fished the least out of the Tennessee River chain, and I felt like I had to do something. But I definitely get what you're saying. I mean, we'll go out on Chickamauga, and sometimes, man, I want to get out and be around everybody. And if people are in town, I want to go out and have a good time. And, sometimes that tournament takes the back seat to the social part.
And that's the same thing with me. I've never done good anywhere on the Tennessee chain because those are always the lakes that draw everybody there. And I'm more worried about spending or seeing like people that we only talk on social media or like a picture, but it's just about spending that quality time. Like I went down for the Hobie event down in Gunnersville, and Steve Owens was down there. And of course I brought food, I brought pulled pork and everything else like that. I didn't care about catching fish. I wanted to hang out. It's just that's my church. That's my bar. It's just different. It's not about that check all the time.
Hey, when I shared that you were coming on, Steve O said you had the best pulled pork in the world.
I'm pretty confident in it.
All right.
I can't say in the world, but
we talked earlier today. Now he said he's wanting to come down for the barbecue festival in Memphis in May. Yeah. So I'm going to come out and see what he's got. We'll find out if he does have the best in the world. Maybe he does.
That's on my bucket list is competing in Memphis in May. So
come on down. They have a big. I mean, they have a big throwdown down here. They'll have music and everything. Like it's pretty cool on the riverfront down there.
Okay, I'm down to travel. Fish or food,
Aaron's
I will
gonna come
travel.
with you. Aaron threw up them looking eyes. He's gonna come down too. If you talk to Aaron White every 2 weeks, he's coming down to fish Chickamauga. he came down for that. He came down for the Hobie when it flooded and didn't get bit down here, and it's eating him alive. Like he can't push it out of his mind. So now he's ready to go.
That's hilarious.
I know. I hope he does come back.
So Russell, let me ask you this, because some of the Northeast guys really travel, but people really I don't think they understand how far it is for you guys to drive to some of the events in the Deep South or over on the Midwest side of things. And I know that the Northeast guys really push to get events up your way, outside of the KBN trail events. So how much traveling do you get to do, or do you try to put on your schedule every year?
So this year, taking on a restaurant, I've kind of toned down with it. Driving is not a problem for me. Like I said, I drove truck, so hop in and drive 10 hours. That's literally only stop for gas and piss and keep her moving. But I mean, I've went to Wisconsin. That's 14 hours. Florida, that was 18 hours. I've been down Alabama, Kentucky, Tennessee. Tennessee's like 9 hours. I'll drive through tonight for that one. But where I'm located is the south end of the Northeast. So these guys up in New York and Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine, I mean, they're 22, 23 hours to get some of these events. Like Sandy Cooper is one I always want to fish. It's in that I have to take an extra day at work to travel to get it.
Right.
But I mean, there's bodies of water up here that I wholeheartedly believe some of these southern sticks will look at confused up here because they're different. When you're talking about deep Highland Reservoir smallmouth, 40, 50 feet deep, on a drop shot, that's a lot different than most people are fishing. But we don't have that 9 and 10 pound largemouth that guys that got down south. But smallmouth is king up here.
So numbers wise, I mean, traditionally speaking, like, the Northeast people are always pushing, for big trail stops. What do you think holds people back from hitting like 125, 130 anglers at a Northeast tournament? Do you think it's the distance, or do you think they might not, they're not willing to jump in for the bigger tournaments, or like what's the limiting factor?
Well, I mean, when you look at it, look at the major side of fishing. Let's look at the bass boat world. How many events do they have up here? The bodies of water that we fish that hold these big events are the same bodies of water they fish.
Yeah.
So a lot of those fish are down south, or in the Midwest. There's a couple up here. You got St. John's River. You have, the Great Lakes. But I think a lot of it is distance and not knowing the bodies of water. It's a completely different style of fishing up here.
Yeah, I guess the elites are supposed to come up there for 3 straight tournaments here pretty soon to New York, all the way up to New York. But I don't know if that's going to work out.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to go.
Josh Evans said sticks from the south don't travel like we do in the Northeast. I know Matt Scott just drove up from Texas to Wisconsin. Jordan Marshall sitting in Wisconsin because he called me today eating cheese curds, drinking spotted cow. Said he caught 3 pike and a catfish. He traveled. He just ain't doing that. You don't know that he's there, but he's there somewhere.
He ain't dialed it in yet up there?
He's dialed something in. I don't know what. He's getting bit. I'll say that.
It's different. I mean, even that body of water up there, that Mississippi River, when you look at it down, once you get down lower in, last couple locks, that's a different river than what it is up there in La Crosse or, in Mille Lacs or anything like that. So
Jordan said that he said that river is rolling right now. He said he looked out at it and he's like, dude, I didn't think there was any current at all. He's like, I got out in it and I'm pedaling. He's like, and I'm pedaling hard and I'm moving about a mile an hour backwards.
Yeah.
He said it ain't like home.
No.
Well, that's when we were up there last year. I run the Torpedo, and I got on the river, and I went right back to the bank, loaded up, went to a different spot. I wasn't fighting that all day. It doesn't look like it's moving because it's so big, but it was booking.
It's a monster.
Yeah.
It's a monster up there.
Yeah.
So Russell, you talk about you travel. What is the key for you to travel? Obviously, the techniques don't work up in Pittsburgh that work in Florida or work in Wisconsin. You got to be versatile. So what technique do you have that travels with you, or you just consider yourself a versatile angler?
Honestly, man, I always have a spinnerbait tied on. I do have, I never bit the jackhammer plague. I throw it, but I don't. I'd rather pick up a spinnerbait, jig, and I've been throwing a swim bait a lot. I take them everywhere, but I use swim baits more for seeing where fish are at, seeing what they're doing. But if anything, it's a spinnerbait and a jig. When I'm smallmouth fishing, I just love a curly tail grub.
Simple. I like that. You're the Chris Zaldane of kayak fishing, throwing the big swim baits.
I'm trying. They get bit. I've lost some money, just some muskie and pike, but it's few and far between. I just like finding out where they're at. I see so many more fish throwing big swim baits than anything else, and they're not giant. I mean, they're 6-7 inches, but I like throwing them. Big glide bait.
Jody Queen says Ned rig for catfish.
Oh yes, on the Susky, it was an event. I was throwing a TRD finesse jig with the skirted one that they come out with first, and I was fishing a rock ledge, probably about 16 feet of water, and I felt something spongy. Then I felt the jig hit the bottom, and I fished really light line. I'm talking 4 pound, 6 pound fluoro.
What? What are you doing,
yes,
Brent?
Really light. Really light line. But I felt something spongy, and I lifted up, and my rod just started bending over. Then I just started lifting up harder, and I thought I was either on somebody else's line or something. Then the head shake went, and I hooked into a flathead. If you dig through my uploaded pictures, it was 39 inches, probably 45, 46 pounds on 6 pound test Ned rig. And it come up corner of its mouth. I fought that thing for probably 45 minutes. It kept on getting in current.
That's a good waste on a tournament day.
Yeah, huge waste on a tournament day. Then it was so big, I couldn't get a picture of it and myself. There was no selfie, so I had to call another angler over. I'm screaming at him through these rocks. He comes over, and it's flopping around in the bottom of my Jackson Kilroy DT. And in the DT, the whole hog trough's gone. You can see the nose of it on the bump board, but the fish just completely covered the hog trough, all gone. But it swam away, and everybody laughed because I submitted it in the tournament.
You have to. After 45 minutes, you better submit it.
Yeah. But no, that's probably my biggest light line catch.
Hey, Eric Atkins wanted us to ask you about rooster fishing in Panama. Did you use 6 pound test down there?
Hell no.
I used 12 pound test, smartass.
Well, it's funny. Fish. The fish we're using for bait down there, because they do live bait fishing down in Los Busos, Panama, are tournament size fish we'd fish with up here. So you're taking a 10-aught hook that's the size of the inside of your hand, and you're hooking some kind of fish through it and dragging it behind you as you're pedaling around trolling. But they're literally 4 and 5 pound blue runners, or they have smaller fish. But those rooster fish, I would give up fishing some of my absolute favorite spots to go down Panama once a year. I go down to Adam Fisk anytime.
I want to go, man. We had Richard Offner on last week, and he said they're going down in December, and they've got an open spot in their trip, and I'm debating real hard on making that one.
Listen, it's from getting off the plane in Panama City to getting back on the plane in Panama City was fantastic. Not one thing I can complain about.
Really?
Everything, Adam and the crew down there, they set you up with, you're going to Panama, so of course they speak, Latin language, they speak Spanish. but they set you up with English speaking people, taxi drivers, the whole nine. Like they run it through apps so you can use it on Wi-Fi through your phone. Like every detail is taken care of going down there. The food, like I jokingly said, I'm allergic to tomatoes. I'm not allergic to them. I just can't stand the things. I can't. I absolutely will not bite a raw tomato, and get pissed off if I do. But the cook there, I can't even say cook, the chef there, she literally thought I was allergic to them and created a whole menu that had nothing to do with tomatoes. But we laughed about it because she doesn't like something. But the food is phenomenal, like top notch. All the beer you can drink, the food, you never go hungry.
I'm in.
And the fishing is top notch. Like everybody in our group caught multiple fish and multiple big fish.
And the food, it's fresh caught fish, fresh out of the jungle, fruits and stuff, right? From what I've seen.
So you eat a lot of fish. There's a lot of fish there, but they do pizza night. They do like a Tex-Mex night. Okay. You'll have ceviche, guacamole from avocados right there. You'll see pineapples, mangoes. I mean, passion fruit. I mean, everything that's there is ready. Bananas, fresh, and they're definitely, when you look at them as an American, quote unquote, you realize what we eat is so much processed. So what you're getting there is like the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
I can't speak. The wife will get mad at me because I will just straight up leave and go right to Panama.
Hey, by the way, she commented earlier and said you better say something nice to her on here. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, I would say that. I didn't see that. I don't. She's the number one reason. No, she knows. She's the number one reason why I can do that.
She knows.
There you go. Good comeback. And
I say it every time we're online. She's the reason why I can do and have fun with this. So she supports that. But she knows I'm not going to the bar getting drunk. I'm not strung out on drugs, and but she knows that's my.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, Ryan Van Tyne commented and said, "You eat onions like apples, but you don't like tomatoes." Is that true?
Absolutely, I'll eat an onion like an apple. I'm not biting a tomato.
That's hilarious. Hey, if you guys are watching, if you got any questions for Russell, fire them off while we got him here. Ryan, Russell, what's going on in your area with the COVID lockdowns? Obviously, you still had this tournament, but has that had a big effect on fishing there?
So not really. Our state really never did anything with like shutting down ramps or anything like that. What they did was the trout stocking. Trout fishing is huge up here in Pennsylvania. They just took all the fish and dumped them in the river or in the lake or the stream at once, and then opened up trout season like 2 weeks before, and everybody up here lost their mind. And I'm just thinking, like, yes, the bass have something to eat. Let them get a little bit bigger. But no, it hasn't changed anything. Or, virtual. No meetings. I don't think we can have any more than like 12 or 15 guys at a boat ramp if we do have something organized. And with that is if there is more than one launch, you just launch those guys, and the next wave of guys come in. We'll work it out like that up here. So it's goofy, but it's the times we're in right now.
Everybody we've had on, we've asked about this just because it's interesting to hear the different parts of the country and how it's been handled.
Yeah, it's I mean, not that we're all roughly the same age. Not that we can say we never did this before. Like our parents, our grandparents, your grandparents, we've never experienced anything like this before. Right. So it's goofy.
Josh Evans wants to know, how important is it to listen to the locals when they tell you river right or river left?
I don't listen, but it's important.
There's a story there.
There's some things that people tell you not to do. Me and Josh fished traveled to an event down in West Virginia on a new river, and one of the locals told us, hey, stay this way. I kind of followed it around. It was a nice big, probably class 2, class 3 whitewater shoot. And Josh was kind of stuck on the other side. And then another guy, he doesn't kayak fish anymore. Or I haven't seen him, on social media lately. He didn't make it. He lost everything. And then he was in a wilderness command. So like a sit inside.
Yeah, he got swamped.
Yeah. Oh, it was ugly. It was ugly. But I had an NRS pump with me to get water out. Yeah, he didn't do too good on that one. He lost a whole lot of gear. But if you ever get to fish a river, New River's a good one to fish too up there in West Virginia,
So somebody just posed, so Ryan Van Tyne just asked, what's the next event you're planning on fishing, actually?
So after winning this last one, the wife, she knows that what's left on the KBF trail is events that I've done good at. So it's hard for me to plan this year with a restaurant. Friday nights in a restaurant are good. Saturdays are good. But my wife, she holds it down, and she'll run the restaurant on Saturday. We have a good crew there, so as long as I can get everything prepped out and get out early enough on a Friday, I'll drive 6-7 hours through the night. So I'm going to fish East-West Harbor in Ohio. That's going to be my next event. And then I'm going to try to, after that, get on one of these Hobie events to support that end of things. But I don't know where that one's going to be. And that's another thing. I got to travel down south to get there.
Coosa River, man. Come on.
I know. That's
pretty much what's left.
Yeah, I'm going to say there's not much
left.
You'll
skip over Dardanelle like that, Ryan? Come on.
Where is Dardanelle? Like, what is that shit? Like, Arkansas?
If you'll come down here, I'll show you right where it is.
Are there fish there? I told you, Jeff, we're not doing this anymore. I'm not talking about it. I'm not driving to Arkansas to fish again. It's over.
Isn't Dardanelle the one that had the FLW event on?
They used to have an Elite Series event every year and FLW events there.
Okay.
Yeah. There's plenty of YouTube videos. Go watch a couple of them, Ryan.
There's plenty of YouTube videos. That's where I learned to fish anyway.
I'm talking about the FLW tournament videos, man.
Listen, Jeff, if the Guggen squad ain't been there, I ain't going.
They've been there.
So mark that off the list.
I don't know if that's true. Have you fished a Hobie event yet, Russell? Have you been to one?
I've been to 2 of them.
Okay,
I went down to the Kentucky. Yeah. And I just, same thing. AJ and those guys do a phenomenal job. We were trying to hold one up here on Erie, but COVID, that struck. But I fished I had surgery last year and thought I was doing okay, being a meathead, and went to St. Clair, and I couldn't pedal through the second day, so I had to get off the water and head home. So.
I got you. Have you done any of the BASS stuff yet? They had one up there yet?
I haven't. So they haven't had one. They just scheduled. They're going to have one and only one. They just scheduled one in October on the Susquehanna. So I'll be there for that one.
Okay.
Of course you will.
Exactly.
With his wallet open.
That time of year should be a hog fest. Those fish are feeding up for the winter, and they're going to start pushing towards their winter holes. That should be a good one.
I'm going to order a bull shad. I may come up for that one.
I got about 6 or 7 of them. Come on.
Just get you some of them ducket shads.
Their eyes will probably pop out like the damn rods.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't trust those hooks too much.
No, they're terrible.
Things people do in this industry, I tell you.
Ryan Van Tyne's asking what date, which state. I don't know which event he's talking about. If you're talking about Dardanelle, that's the Hobie event in September, and then the Coosa River is a Hobie event in October, if that's what you're asking about.
Yep. The Coosa's on the line for me because I don't want to come down.
I know Aaron White's planning on coming down. We're trying to make that one like the ship house. Like, you know how we got everybody together and just had a big throwdown? I think the Coosa River is probably going to end up being that tournament for this, and we're trying to get Chase Tanner to come down. I know David's planning on fishing it. Shane's planning on fishing it, so we're going to try to make it. Hopefully, we'll be out of this quarantine stuff because I mean, we hoped that Kentucky Lake would be like that, where people would get together away from, but it didn't happen. Like everybody was spread out and peppered around, and I want everybody to hang out together. I don't like all this stuff.
Yeah, it's nice to be in the same area, but it's just not the same. You know what I mean? And
No.
meet a guy on a boat ramp, you don't know if they want a handshake or stay 6 feet away. So it's
right.
It's really odd.
Hey, I'll tell you a funny story. I hope Ashley's not watching. She'll get mad at me. But we went out to Beaver Lake and we're fishing, and I was talking to some cat on the bank that had a wild catfish rig with like 50 rods all the way around his pontoon boat. And I hear her yelling at me from out on the water. This was early on in this outbreak or whatever. And I couldn't understand what she was saying. And I got out there and I said, "What are you doing?" She was screaming 6 feet. Tell me to back up off that guy.
There you go.
Oh, it was so funny.
Get back.
It was so funny.
So it's funny for me and my wife and our kids. I think, my kids they got sick back in December, January, really, really bad. And it was like my 2-year-old, she got really, really bad, to where it startled both me and my wife. Well, we both got sick after that. We think we had this thing already. But it's funny because I'm around general public in a restaurant all day, 5 days a week. So I'm not as cautious as other people. So it's like for me, I'll walk up to you, give you a hug and a handshake, and then the wife would be like, "What about if they were not wanting that?" I was like, "Well, tough shit now."
Yeah, you'll be all right.
You're just helping people get immune. That's all.
Yeah,
spreading the antibodies around.
I can't get on board with it, man. I'm not good. I'm in the hospitals all the time working with doctors and stuff. That's my first instinct is go up and shake somebody's hand. If you don't shake somebody's hand, you might as well see yourself out. There's a problem there. So I don't know.
I'm definitely a people person.
Into it. Yeah. If I get sick, I'm sorry. I guess I got sick, but that's what it is.
Yeah. I'm ready for it to get back to normal. I'll tell you what, it makes the tournaments, even the local tournaments, that's half the fun locally is getting together and hanging out, and we're doing everything virtual. You know what I mean? So it puts a damper on it.
We actually had a meetup for our last one. We tried to, keep everybody separated. I think we had 26 people show up. It was a night tournament, but we actually did a physical meetup, and you don't realize how much you miss that part of it until you do it again after this. Just being able to stand around and talk to everybody at 3 a.m. That's what a lot of us get out and do it for anyway. It's not to win $200. It's to get out and see everybody.
Well, it's kind of funny this, it's like the guy that won the second day event up on the Susquehanna, me and him fished together. So it's me instantly, "Hey man, congrats, blah, blah, blah." And that real personal touch. But it's when I thought back on when I won, guy from KBF called and was like, "Hey, do you have this for bonus box, blah, blah, blah." Yep. And then it was okay, cool. Then everybody's on social media, congrats. There's just a big part of that fellowship that's missing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Talking about it and doing things like that it sucks. I feel bad for, some of these guys that it's their first time doing something big, or, they did something different or wanted to tell their story. There's nobody to listen to it, It's just creating more distance.
And like you're saying, when I remember my first big tournament was the KBF Open on Kentucky Lake 6 years ago. I didn't know anybody. I didn't even know what I was doing. Hell, I had 2 Walmart combos out there. I was just glad to be on the same water. But part of the bigger picture was meeting these people that you've seen and you've watched on the leaderboard all day, and trying to learn a little bit from them, having a conversation and maybe try to pick up on a couple things that might help you grow as an angler. I feel like this stuff's kind of put the brakes on that. And I don't want people to get turned off from coming and fishing more big events, because they went to something like this and well, I just went out there and donated my money to Russell. So I'm just going to stay at the house from here on out.
Well, it's kind of funny because it's a lot of times when you're meeting up and, it's a guy looking at how you rigged, your old town, or how you rigged your new canoe, or, wanting to try a new boat because they're in a Pelican or something like that, wanting to see stuff. That takes away so much of our sport, that just looking at lines and showing new guys the difference between a fluoro and a braid or fluoro and mono, because a lot of the guys that are coming out of the industry are literally just getting into fishing. We got a lot of guys coming over from the bass boat side of things that are, well experienced, well versed in fishing. And then you got guys that never fished a river. There's 2 or 3 rivers on their tournament schedule for the year. I think this sucks for those first year, second year guys that look up to people that just can't have that genuine one-on-one time with it.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that can keep a guy that's maybe new, that even has a bad tournament, coming back is, like Ryan said, showing up and like, man, this group of people is cool. I got to meet these people. I had a bad event, but I don't mind coming back and paying another $40, $50, whatever that local tournament was, because I enjoyed being around those people so much. We're missing that right now, but hopefully, everybody understands what's going on. They'll still have that draw to come back.
Yeah, that's a big thing in this community, man. It's when I was working, in the booth next to Ryan down at the Bassmasters 2 years ago. You take your time to not see these guys, but meet. And I met his daughter. We were around. We were doing stuff together. It's just not that social media presence. It's the fact that, and he's the same way here. There's always a couch open at my house. And that's the same thing he's told me. And a lot of guys are like this in the industry. I'm not saying as soon as you meet me, I'm going to say, hey, come stay in my house. But there's so much that people are missing from these groups wherever you're at. I literally fished a whole year in West Virginia, but met some of the best people in West Virginia. Every one of the tournaments was 4 hours plus away from me. But I fished our whole trail for the year, and I ended up taking our Angler of the Year from out of state.
That's what I was going to say. You won Angler of the Year doing that, didn't you?
Yeah. Not one of those guys ever shrugged a shoulder or said anything. And I'm sure there's a couple of them on probably watching right now. They're some of the best guys I've met in this industry. Jody Queen being one of them. Jody's one of the best guys you'll ever meet.
Yep, agreed. So two compliments that were just paid to you here. Brian Wood, he just said he's glad that he got to meet you and Matt Ball at the ramp on day 1 of the Susky. And then Ryan Van Tyne said his fondest memory was when you reached out to him when he went a couple states south and, had some conversation with him and shared some intel.
So it's funny for me, I don't mind telling people, hey man, this worked for me. Maybe this might work for you. But I'm telling those people that have the same mindset of, taking care of the waters, taking care of the fish, and doing stuff like that. Go catch you a citation in a different state and enjoy your trip. But while you're there, stop and take notice of this little business that can use a non-regular customer that is phenomenal. And this guy puts on a tournament every year. I happen to go down there and do well in his tournaments. But if I'm within an hour, that's a pit stop to pick up a pack of baits or something because he's just become a friend.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man. It's too easy to stop at Academy or Bass Pro, but we all should probably take the time to try to find that small business out there, on the road.
And that's kind of one of the things that people try to do. These tournament directors like Steve-O and AJ, whenever they're holding a tournament, I'll reach out to one. If I need anything, I don't give a shit what it is. If it's a pack of Cincos, I'm like, hey, who's the local tackle shop here? Because that's who's going to appreciate the return. It's not the big box store with some CEO that doesn't even know the people working there. I don't care about that. No offense to them, but I'd rather
being,
support the little stuff.
Being me running this restaurant, being a small business, if it wasn't for that through this time, it would be different for me. I'd be looking for a job right now if it wasn't that support local, support small. So outside of that, when I go somewhere, I don't stop at the big box names. There's one big store I stop in, and it's because the manager there supports the small clubs the best way he can. So I'll support that field and stream. But it's strictly because of that manager there. Once he's gone, I don't know if they don't continue to support it, I won't continue to support it. So
is it the Pasta Shop LLC?
Yes, it is.
Katie Bacca, who's always on top of it, just shared the link on on our live feed.
So everybody
She also shared the link to Los Buzos. She's Jeff. We got to do something, Jeff. We need to get her like some kind of official uniform or a sash, maybe a crown. I don't know, whatever she wants.
Maybe we put her on camera, like in the corner, like during the live stream.
God, it'll be like Howard Stern.
Yeah,
it'll be like Howard Stern, like where you can just have 3 or 4 people like coming in, like, wait a minute, Howard.
Yeah.
What was the guy with the big teeth on Howard Stern? You know who I'm talking about?
She said, yeah.
I can't remember his name. God, I can't remember his name. Anyway, that was his job. He always is spot on.
We'll get her down.
So Rodney Kennan, before we move too far off subject here, Rodney Kennan asked, what do you think the chances of the national championship going off in October are? You think that'll happen?
This is going to hurt this year, man. If flu season starts early, I'm sorry. I feel we're going to go back into this complete shutdown. That's just my thing, because they're not going to know if they're sick from the flu, sick from COVID, or just homesick in general. So
I don't know, man. I'm hoping that we kind of move past this stuff. Like, a lot of it's, and I hate to say it, a lot of it's media hype. I'm not saying that it's not a real disease or it's not putting people in the ICU, but you got something that is less than 0.5% death rate that they just hype up like, the sky's falling. Like, there's, it can't just be a news cycle thing. Like, okay, well, this died down. Let's go ahead and fire up the corona again. At some point, I think as a nation, we have to, everyone collectively come together and be like, okay, we can't shut our economy down. We can't, put people's lives on hold because 1% of the population might be at risk.
We call that college football season. Once that starts,
and we can't put that on hold.
Once that starts, there's no telling anybody anything.
Yeah, it's funny though, man. Even though it is, say, less than 0.5%, if that less than 0.5% is one of my family members,
it is.
I'm not sure if,
But that being said, and I mean, obviously, I've got elderly family. Everybody has elderly at-risk family members. I've got asthma myself, but you have to take into account, like, who's at risk. If you're at risk, all right, you take the precautions and stay home. I'm not saying that all of society should ignore the fact that people are at risk. Like, you shouldn't go to your grandmother's house without a mask on and sneeze on her or something. But I think that there needs to be some sort of weigh scale on risk versus reward, because if we can't feed ourselves as a country, then we're going to starve to death. Like, exactly. There's real consequences to shutting an economy down.
Yeah, exactly. Our economy is not more, or a human life is not more valuable than the economy.
So,
that's just. So
is that a no or a maybe on the national championship?
That's going to be it's going to be a maybe, and it's a hard maybe.
Yeah.
I don't see it either way.
I think championships like the TOC, for example, they're going to go on no matter what because they're smaller and they'll be able to handle that. Though I think, I think they'll be able to go on no matter what.
I would hate to see that one go on virtual, though.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the experience of the TOC is the show that Hobie puts on. The white tablecloths, the gift bags, Ike being there. I'm sure Randy Howell will probably be up for this one since it's so close, but it's that kind of atmosphere. That's a lot of the tournament. That's a lot of what people are working for. It's not just the fishing tournament. It's the whole experience. And I hope that we can not get, caught up in that. I hope that we can do a real tournament for this.
Somebody chimed in and said, let's not get into the politics. We won't. We're just talking about, we're just going to touch on it. But we can talk about something else that's sort of political. And that is the new measuring boards that came out this week.
Which new ones?
Catch did a bait and switch on us. They dropped the plastic one on us, and then they came in hot with the metal one that looks just like it. I'm like, wait a minute, why'd they do that? They should have came with that one first.
So listen, obviously I made a video, sent it to a closed group of people. It got out. That's my bad, I guess, for, I don't know, trying to educate people. But the long story short is the plastic board is an improvement over a hog trough. Like a hog trough is very bendy. Like you either sneeze on it and it will bend in half or it will break. One of the two things will happen. The Catch plastic board is a huge improvement. I'm not arguing that at all. It still flexes. It's still plastic. Those are physical properties. Like if people think that you can make a plastic board that is like steel, you can't because it's plastic. Like that's the material it's made out of. If you're too weak to hold up a piece of aluminum, then that's probably the board for you. But if you can, if you can pick up 12 ounces, you can probably hold a freaking aluminum catch board. So I think the new one that they came out with is the answer. I think it's going to be a mid-range price point. It has the wider lines that people ask for. It has the reference numbers on top. I think it's a great product, and I hope that maybe that will calm people down.
Be the one.
I'm not 100% on either one of them, and those are my own personal reasons. I personally have not bought a catch board, and if I have to fish a Hobie, somebody will lend me one. But and I'm not saying I'm all hog trough either. There has to be some kind of correction in this industry. But the improvements are 110% what we were asking for as anglers.
That's the part I appreciate.
That's what I appreciate. They definitely answered some things that were being asked from by the anglers.
Yeah,
one thing
No, go ahead, Russ.
I said one thing I don't like is the multicolor difference and all that. It needs to be standard. I don't care if it's high vis yellow or another color. It just has to be standard. Because once you start modifying colors and changing stuff like that, there's just room for error. These things in my mind, are made on a CNC machine. They're not hard to make. You can literally buy one, change it. So I like the plastic board because it's a little bit harder to alter plastic than it is to make a metal one. It's a long conversation I had with somebody else. If you take 1/16 of an inch out of each inch, at 16 inches, you gain an inch, and that's not something you're going to notice in a picture.
So you're saying from like a milling standpoint?
From a milling standpoint.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Somebody can counterfeit a catch board, in other words, is your stance.
Absolutely, because there's so many variations of it. I mean, there's definitely 6 or 7 different variations of the catch board. And for me, I'll cut the end of my hog trough off at 28 inches, because if I catch anything over 28 inches or 26 inches to fit flat in the bottom of my kayak so there's no flex, that's what I'm going to do. I don't like their process is to the thousandths of an inch, but if somebody takes a 16th of an inch out of every inch from a milling aspect of it, the technology's out there to do it, you're never going to see that. Like, even if your board's checked at the beginning of Hobie, take the fence off and put it onto a different board. You don't know. Like, it's a small change.
That is an argument I've never heard, but it's very intriguing to think about. Kind of eye-opening.
Yeah,
because in my mind, I thought the plastic is easier to modify because people could cut, overnight, go home, take a hacksaw, cut it, glue it back together. If you got a fish wide enough, of course, as we learned from, what was his name, Shepherd, have 2 or 3 boards. If the fish is wide enough to cover my 1-inch modification, I'll use this board. So that's, that was my thought process on the plastic. I didn't think about the literal, expansion of the lines, basically milling, changing the length measurement.
Not even milling. I mean, you can take that. I don't know the dimensions of it. I haven't played with it too much. But if you take literally 16 inches and you take a 16th of an inch off of each inch, you won't see that on no digital measuring device, no nothing. I'm like, we talked about this at a local club event, talked about it amongst other tournament directors, and nobody's really said nothing about it because nobody really seen it. But for me in my past job, we dealt with thousandths of an inch. So a 16th of an inch is a big gap. I'm not saying that they're putting boards out like that. I'm saying it's a possibility for somebody else to do multiple variations, leave it up for you to powder coat it and go about your way.
So come out with a standard color with some sort of watermark on it where that couldn't be done, in other words.
Exactly.
I like that.
It needs to be standardized. Like, that's what I like about the hog trough. They're white or they're yellow. And if you're going to change it, you have to change it by 1 inch or 2 inches by cutting it out. It's easier to find that than it is a 16th of an inch. And you can have a small fish,
I got you. That's deep. I think you got a bunch of people in the chat, like scrambling and doing some calculations and stuff. It's that's deep. Kind of got my mind blown on that one. What do you think, Ryan?
Again, I would have to throw it back to Jim Clark, where he is our 16th of an inch measurement expert, and let him sort this out for us.
Yeah, I do agree that the bigger money tournaments, obviously that's just going to keep growing, that we do need a standard measuring board that doesn't look bush league with markers on it and, smudges and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we got to get there one way or the other.
So here's an idea, I don't know, in my head. So what if they took, let's say at tournament board check time, beforehand, what if they take like a transparent something overlay, clear plastic that has the marks on it and line that up? Are you saying that they could detach the fence after board check and attach it to one that's been modified?
Yeah, so it's just like the whole Shepherd scandal had multiple boards. So you get a board made that's powder coated blue or anodized blue, whatever that says. And I can't see none of the comments coming in. And I'm sure this will be talked about later. But
Jim Clark said a 16th of an inch is all the Lord blessed him with. That's pretty much what you missed in recap.
Those fences appeared to be held on by some type of screw, rivet, or something along that lines. Nobody looks at that in depth at it. Even at the Hobie events, they line them up, make sure 30 inches matches 30 inches, and goes about the day. It's still going to be there. You can modify a CNC made board. It has to be the new plastic catch board is going to be, in my mind, better than the metal boards because it's harder to change, and they have from 1 inch to whatever length they're making it at.
But why? So, devil's advocate, why would that be harder to change if you could take it home and cut it with a hacksaw and glue it back together that night?
That is it. But you got to start checking those boards when they come in, and that's why I believe, like, you ever been behind a tractor trailer truck and they have the locks on them, the seals? You need to have a seal in a picture. Some kind of identifier needs to be a slot in my mind, and I'm not perfect by no means. There needs to be a slot in there where you can put a ring or something attached to that board that is the seal that's what you bring back in and that's what's in your picture outside of an identifier. So
that's a good, honestly, that's a good thought. Maybe something that the tournament director attaches, and maybe it's like a locking lug nut, like you have a key and that's all that can remove whatever that seal is from the trough. I don't know where you would put that at what length, maybe 27, depending on the length of the board, maybe at the end of the board, maybe you could mill something that had that attachment point at the end. That's a good idea. I could see something like that. Of course, there's always going to be, anytime there's humans involved, there's somebody that can be like, oh, well, hell, I'll find a key like this that can do that. But hopefully at some point it comes down to putting faith in people. This is a fishing tournament. There could be people with cages or barrels or whatever. They could be scooping them out of a fish tank, carrying them to the river for all we know, taking pictures of them. But I agree. Like that is a good, viewpoint that I didn't think of previously.
Hey, I'll tell you this: the first TOC that Cody Prather took over several years back down in Texas was right after one of the big cheating scandals. May have been right after the Shepherd one. I'm not sure. It was after one of the cheating scandals. Anyway, they went over the top with double board checks. They had a locking keyring deal on the hot drop itself, plus a sticker, plus a wristband thing you had to have in the picture. And they went so overkill that it pissed a bunch of people off. So you got to be you can't do too much. Picture from the.
I remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah, but I like the idea, Russell. I think it's good that we need to try to do something that's more standard, especially across all the big events.
Yeah, and I mean, even with the Hobies, some of these companies, they have a 200 count max. It wouldn't be, and I'm not saying I'm the deciding factor on how Hobie spends their money, but to carry 200 boards, so when you come there, you get their board, and that stuff. I mean,
I can see that.
Let me stop you right there. Garrett Morgan just brought something up that I never paid attention to. He said there's a serial number on the bottom of the catch boards. So at the board check, they could write that down and verify when it came back in, I guess.
Or if it's on your Tourney X, if it's on your Tourney X profile, your name, your serial number pops up as they're judging your fish.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, that would be something simple.
We're sitting here solving
Katie
all those
Backa,
problems, man.
Katie Backa, of course, super clutch, puts up these zip tie seals with tamper tags. So they could put a zip tie seal, just through the hole that's already on the catch board that you could attach the leash to. Again, though, that's on the fence, which we discussed.
Yeah.
So,
and it's nothing besides milling,
a hole.
I don't know how many guys are catching a 20-plus inch bass that is thicker than the board at 20 inches.
Right.
So, put it there. It's in your picture.
Yeah, that's deep. I did not think we would go down that rabbit hole on this show tonight. But that was deep. That got us all thinking. So that's awesome. Wow, what a great show tonight. We're over an hour already. It doesn't even feel like it. It feels like we've been talking for 30 minutes.
I knew something bad was going to happen, Jeff.
No, nothing bad.
I'm kidding.
Awesome. What are either one of you guys going to the cross this week? There's a big tournament this weekend in the cross.
I'm not. I can't make that one.
So who you got? Who you got for that one?
I don't know. My hometown buddy Jake Harshman's heading out there. It sounds funny, but I think a lot of that Mississippi River, if it is not blown out, is going to fish similar to the Susquehanna.
That's river fishing, yeah.
And I think he understands those big smallies. And that's just my hometown buddy.
I like that.
Is Jay Wallen's fishing it, though? Jay's fishing it. He pulled off a win up there, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, Jay pulled off a win up there. I don't know. There's so many. And it's hard to even say names.
Josh Stewart.
Josh Stewart.
They're all fishing, aren't they?
And don't sleep on old Tyler Cole. That's his backyard. He usually takes care of business up there.
Yeah, there's so much water up there.
Yeah. It's going to be a good one. I'm anxious to see. I'm not going to make this one, but I'm going to be up there in August. You going up there in August, Ryan? For the bass one?
Maybe. That one's a lot more feasible. Man, I've been on the road so much myself. Like, I just got home from Florida, drove out here to Memphis. Honestly, a big part of me wants to drive back to Florida Thursday night and tarpon fish with Barton and Matthew Van some more. Because if I lived closer to any fish that looked like a tarpon, I probably wouldn't bass fish too much through the spring and summer months, man. That stuff is nuts.
I got bit by that saltwater bug down in Panama. I said I would give up fishing Lake Erie to go fish Panama once a year.
It's nasty, man. I just want to go back down and try to get some more stuff on film. A fish that big coming out of the water like that it was nuts. I mean, it was awesome. So I'm hoping to hit that. I'll meet you up there if I can, Jeff. Don't save me a seat. I'll let you have Dardanelle. Russ, I will see you on the Coosa River. You're more than welcome to stay with us. We'll get a house. We're going to have a big time. Josh Evans said he's going to come down too. Y'all can carpool. So on down here.
All right. Hey, Russell, what an awesome interview, man. We sure appreciate you taking the time to get on here with us. Hope business stays strong up where you're at, and you guys stay safe.
Yes, sir.
And hopefully I can see you on the road sometime this fall. We'll see.
Sooner or later, guys. Big fan. Thanks for all you're doing and keeping everybody honest in this industry. So,
congrats on the big win. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.